Today we're taking a look at another subscriber requested weapon, and if you watch any of my videos you know that I usually say if you want me to review or analyze or take apart any specific kind of weapon and analyze a playstyle that goes with it or whatever it might be, leave a comment in the comment section. I'll be happy to do so and see what I think, if a weapon is viable, if it's good, what can make it good, what makes it bad, etc, etc, whether it's good matchups, whatever. So today we're looking at the Dragonslayer axe, and I figured why not, because I've never really used axes or maces or any of these smaller weapons like that in this game all that much. And when I started using this axe, I remembered why I don't use these weapons. Now before I start to analyze why the weapon is good versus not good and what can make it more viable or what makes it amazing, etc, etc, I just want to take a quick side note to address parries and backstabs, because you're going to see me get a few different backstabs in these videos. I don't really like to parry too much, but I do attempt to do so in a few of these clips. But just because I win matches with a backstab or a parry does not make the weapon, more viable or better in my personal opinion. It fits its playstyle a little bit more, but it doesn't actually make the weapon itself more damaging or more skillful, because you can make any weapon look good with a backstab or a parry. So here we punished this guy with a backstab. In the previous clip we punished somebody with a backstab. But if we had to fight face to face without parrying or backstabbing, would this weapon hold up in an actual match? So that is the viewpoint I'm going to look at this weapon from, okay? So I just wanted to point that out because there is quite a few clips where we do get backstabs. Now, on to what makes the weapon good, first of all. So being an axe and a small weapon, the attack move does come out fairly quick. Okay, it's not as quick as some other things, but it does still come out fairly quick for a small weapon, which is decent. Just decent, not amazing, just decent. Another thing that makes it really good is its damage. Its damage is undeniably very, very high. Even though it is split damage, it is still very high damage. You can infuse the weapon, you can buff the weapon on top of that with a resin or any kind of spell that you want, like Lightning Blade. So it does a lot of damage. If you can two-hit combo somebody, you're essentially doing medium weapon damage. Something like a curved greatsword or a regular greatsword or a spear. That kind of damage. You're doing a decent amount of damage to somebody if you can two-hit combo them with this axe. Now, what makes this weapon suck, in some degree, to put it lightly, I guess, is the fact that it has virtually no range. It is extremely hard to contest and play aggressive with this weapon. As you can see in this clip, this guy fighting me is completely being the aggressor. We whiff a few attacks, we mess up a few times, but we ended up catching him because we conditioned him thinking that he had us doing nothing but blocking, and he got overly aggressive, and we punished him for it, right? He thought he just could walk all over us, and he forgot that, hey, I can attack too, and he just lost. So that is one of the playstyles that you're going to have to use with this weapon, because it doesn't have the amount of range that other shorter weapons in this same kind of weapon class category have. And by weapon class category, I don't mean axes, I just mean like smaller weapons in general. So things like katanas, curved swords, straight swords, even spears to some degree, I guess you can class as a medium or smaller weapon, but they have really good range. Straight swords, I'm sure everybody's been caught, rolling away from a straight sword and then getting caught at the end of their roll. Like, how does that even happen? Well, the straight sword has a little bit of an extra hitbox to it. The axes and the maces in this game do not. So you're going to have to rely on your spacing a lot more with these kinds of weapons than you do with other smaller weapons, because you can usually punish enemy rolls and do running attacks at enemies at decent ranges and still catch them. With axes, it is not the same. So you're going to see something, well, you have been seeing it, something that I've never really done in my PvP, and that is use a shield. Why do I use a shield, and why do I think a shield complements this axe so well? Well, there's two reasons. One, a shield is a shield. It's going to block a lot of physical damage, and the Black Knight shield is one of the best at doing that. And surprisingly enough, even though I don't use shields, they are useful in some fights, and they do counter some things very well. They do have their purpose, is what I want to say. They can counter katanas very well, they can counter Karthus curved swords very well, and even straight swords to some degree. If an enemy's getting a little bit spam happy with the R1 of the greatsword, you're probably going to be in some hot water, so to speak, and you're going to have to rely on double rolling or rolling at the right time to avoid getting hit or getting your guard broken. Now, I did start off the clip, or start off the video with using a Black Knight shield, and I've switched here to a parry shield. And I thought I'd give it a try, but after a few matches I realized that it probably wasn't worth it, because like I said at the beginning of this video, just because I get a parry with the shield doesn't necessarily make the weapon viable, and in my mind, I don't think that that is a justifiable way to objectively approach whether or not a weapon is good or viable or better or worse than other weapons in the game. Because like I said, you can make any weapon seem good by getting a lot of backstabs and getting a lot of parries, or getting a lot of good reads, or spamming parries like the scrubs like to do. But nonetheless, you know, matches that you win with backstabs and parries usually reflect more so of your ability to read the game and your ability to space out opponents better, not necessarily use of the weapon, in my opinion. But anyways, that's a topic for another video. Now, when I go back to the Black Knight shield, the reason that I like to use it with this axe, that is pretty much the strategy that I like to employ with this weapon, and I guess it would work with other axes and maces. Because this weapon lacks the range, and because enemies can usually outpoke this weapon, whether it be with a straight sword, a great sword, an ultra great sword, a spear, it doesn't matter what it is. Basically, any other weapon in the game will likely outspace an axe. And I mean, you guys have seen it if you've been watching these clips. I can't roll catch people unless I continually approach them, even as they're rolling. And then if they don't double roll, I can catch them. But if they roll right as I approach them and attack, they're not going to get hit. Whereas with a straight sword, you have to double roll in order to not get hit by, you know, if you're right in front of somebody and then you start up your attack and they roll away. So with a shield, as you approach somebody, you want to be able to block. Or as they're approaching you, you want to be able to block. You need to close the distance on somebody in an effective manner. And while you can try to play the rolling game a little more aggressively with an axe if you don't want to use a shield, it's not going to be as effective, because enemies can just continually attack you, and all it takes is one mistake or one misplaced roll and you're punished for a 2-hit combo. Whereas with a shield, you can just absorb all the damage and wait for the enemy to close the gap on you, or approach them and close the gap on them with much less risk. Now, an axe, because it is one of the few weapons in the game that actually has a decent one-handed R1, much like straight swords, you don't lose all that much by one-handing this weapon and having a shield in your other hand. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I always two-hand my weapons, because two-handing your weapons means faster moveset, better damage usually, you know, just overall a better experience, and it's more fun too, not to mention. But an axe can definitely be viable one-handing, at least in my opinion. So with the shield, you're closing the gap and you're conditioning your opponent to be a more aggressive. When enemies see shields, they likely want to attack through it. So you can pick your moments and try to punish enemies, or look for gaps, or maybe try to waste their stamina, rush them down a little bit after they've committed or overcommitted to attacking through your shield, and punish them. And as a result, I mean, you can continually approach an enemy and they might roll away, and you can continually approach them with your shield up, and then throw out your R1 to catch the roll. That is one of the ways that you can catch a roll with an axe. Another thing you can do, obviously, is just wait for an enemy to finish their attack string, and then once they're starting up the rest of, or trying to restart their attack string, they're going to be a little bit slower. There you can see I approached this guy with a shield, he started up an attack string, and I was able to attack through it. A shield gives you a safe approach with this weapon, is essentially what I'm trying to say. It allows you to go in, it allows you to condition your opponent in a different way. You can run at them a little bit more effectively, because as you approach them with a shield, they're not going to be too worried about you running at them and attacking through, right? So you can kind of mix up the playstyle and then just let go of the shield and then run in and do a quick poke and run away. And that is one of the ways that you can make maces and hammers, in my opinion. Sorry, maces are hammers, right, in this game? I don't know. But anyways, axes and mace weapons more effective and more viable, I would like to say. I'm sure lots of people have different strategies. This is the strategy that I found worked for me personally. And, I mean, using the weapon itself is a struggle. Don't get me wrong. It's going to take some thick skin to continue on with a weapon like this if you want to use it. But let me know what works for you if this is a weapon you've ever tried. I am personally not a very big fan of these weapons. A lot of the matches that you fight with this weapon are going to be drawn out, and you're going to have to look for the opportune moments to punish. And it could be a really good weapon to punish, but again, because just in general attacks in Dark Souls 3 from any weapon recover so quickly, it's going to be very hard to kind of fish out a running attack punish or a general R1 punish, because enemies can usually attack consecutively, and all it takes is one mistimed attack and you're punished. And because of the lack of the range with this axe, it's very easy for you to think you can punish and then miss it, and then you end up getting punished as a result. So a shield just makes your approach a little bit more safe, and like I mentioned, using a shield in certain matchups gives you a bit of an edge. For example, this guy using the washing pole, and I respect him for not changing his weapon, but he's not going to have much of a chance against a Black Knight shield, which is, in my opinion, a hard counter to katanas. As you can see there, one of the go-to moves for the katana is the running attack and the weapon art, the hold weapon art into the Kenshin-like slash attack. If you watch my Chaos Blade videos, you know that I've mentioned that, and you've seen me use that many times to beat a lot of people. But a shield just straight up counters that. You can't get through that with a shield, so you're gonna have to mix up your playstyle, or try to a different approach to your enemy. So this guy really couldn't do too much. He does, in my opinion, do the appropriate thing, which first of all, he tries to break my guard. So you can see here, I was testing him and I realized, yep, he's gonna try to break my guard, so I'm gonna have to roll away. And then he tries to start going for the weapon art parry, but you can see they're gonna be the aggressor. They're gonna try to close the gap on you, and he saw me switch to my weapon after me trying to gain some health back, and then he smartly backed away. There we saw him starting up a slow attack, and we fished out an R1 and punished him. And this is the kind of playstyle you're going to use with an axe, and which is one of the reasons why I don't personally like using it. I'm not more of a passive player, I'm more of an aggressive player, and I don't really like to play reactive. I mean, you could play reactive and maybe do a little bit better with an axe, but if you go up against these top tier weapons, if you want to call them that, like the katana and stuff, if you're not using a shield, you're going to be extremely vulnerable to running attacks. Like, that's just a given. Like, you're going to be easily outpoked, and you're not even going to be able to punish running attacks, or trade with running attacks, I should say. Usually when an enemy's running at you, you can either try to throw out your R1 or parry them or something, but with a regular axe, you don't even have the range on the weapon to do that, so it makes it very, very tough. Anyways, guys, this is the last match. This guy actually started off really strong and did an amazing read on me to catch that. That was a freeform attack with that weapon. We were both using shitty weapons in my opinion, but he definitely started off better. But again, we fish out a win by just more so player skill rather than the actual weapon making the difference. And you may say, oh no, you just got a lucky backstab, but no, that guy used up all his stamina, and we actually win the match because he overcommits and uses up all his stamina again. But nonetheless, guys, that is the video. Please let me know what you think. If you like the analysis, if you want to provide any feedback, let me know of anything else you guys want to see. I hope you enjoyed the content, and check out my channel for more Dark Souls 3 videos and analysis. Thank you so much again, guys. I love you. Quantum is out.